episode of MC Fireside Chats with your host, Brian Searl. Have a suggestion for a show idea? Want your campground or company in a future episode? Email us at hello@moderncampground.com. Get your daily dose of news from moderncampground.com. And be sure to join us next week for more insights into the fascinating world of outdoor hospitality.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to MC Fireside Chats. My name is Scott Knepp, and I am your guest host this week, filling in for Brian Searl, who is doing all types of fun things. And Brian, I am so proud of you for taking that vacation, and we are going to enjoy bragging about you and talking smack on you for the next 59 minutes. Wonderful. All right. Well, I am joined by some very esteemed colleagues in the RV space. I want to welcome somebody that every time I talk with him, I say, gosh, we're becoming faster and faster friends. Greg Emmert, Senior Strategist at Camp Strategy. How are you today, Greg?
I'm well, Scott. Thanks for having me on. I might say that you are you're probably the smartest and best looking version of Brian that we have had so far. So it's, in a lot of ways, it's good. Thank you, Brian, for taking that vacation to double down on what Scott said. So it's good to be here, man. I'm looking forward to the conversation with these two entrepreneurs we got with us today.
As am I. So no further ado then, let's welcome Mr. John Adams. Hey, John, how are you, sir?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm great. So John is joining us, owner at the Sandusky Milan RV Park. We're going to learn a lot about that in today's episode. And we are also with Stephen Kramer, who has who's managed a campground, but also somehow in managing a campground found the free time to start up his own business and start up campground support. So, hey, Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. Well, Brian is one of the esteemed voices in the industry and has become a friend of mine over our years in working together. And one of the things that Brian has done for me is that Brian has helped me rethink technology and how we utilize it as a resource in our campgrounds. And a lot of our conversations started way over here and ended up talking about AI or applications or some neat things that you can do with it. So I want to start off with just a rapid fire question to get the conversation started and say, what are some applications that you use on your mobile device that has helped you personally or professionally, particularly in the campground environment? Greg, I'm going to start off with you. Is there any application that you have gotten excited about, you think that our audience that might be running campgrounds would benefit from?
So there's two, and one is totally selfish on my part, and the other one is a byproduct of something that I like to do. So I'm an avid hunter, and I use the OnX app, and I don't know if you guys know about that, but it helps me to see parcels of land, boundaries, and also property owners' names. And I used it for years for hunting. If we were on, a grouse hunt in Michigan and you're on state land, but you want to make sure you're not getting onto private land, it's great for that. But it's also great when I'm visiting a new property and I don't have anything on my phone, or I'm not savvy enough to know that I just go to this site and I can find out who owns that land or this land. OnX actually lets me do that. I can see not only the boundary, but the size of the parcel and find out who owns it right from that. So that was something I just happened to stumble onto when I was on a client's property. I thought, well, God, wait a minute, I never thought about that. And so that was sort of, an off-label use for that. And the other one is, as you know, Scott, I'm a huge birder, and the Merlin Bird ID app is so cool. It uses AI to you turn it on your phone. you hold it out, and whatever that thing hears, it's going to tell you, it's going to identify using AI. It's going to identify the birds around you by song. So if you hear a bird song, I wonder what that is. You click on Merlin, you turn on the sound ID, and you let it play. And I've actually got my partner, Jeff Hoffman, and I have a client in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. And they've got a glamping resort that they've been building now for 3 years. They are actually going to set up an outside mic and plumb it into a tablet, leave it outside in a weatherproof kiosk, and let guests come up and sit on this deck. They've got a little coffee area, right, where the decks, they can sit around and they can watch the tablet and see what is singing around them. So it's a really cool use of Merlin, which I use to double check my own. I know a lot of bird calls, but sometimes I get stumped. I use that to kind of double check me. They're going to use it as actually an amenity for their guests. And I think it's a fantastic way of engaging your guests, because so many of them are out there for that natural side anyway, right? To escape to nature. I think it's an awesome way to engage them and connect them to your property, because certainly people remember where they first saw or heard something. And that's connection is key, right? That's going to drive return business and guest satisfaction. So those are mine. How about you guys?
I love it. Now on X, how would I search for that? How's that spelled?
It's literally on, like the word on, the letter X, hunt. On X hunt. Okay. And the Play Store or Apple, yeah, and it's a really cool app, and you can even use it hiking, right? If you're, I use All Trails sometimes for hiking. All Trails is user generated data, so if you get off that trail following somebody's dotted line, you could be following them into a trespassing situation because they don't necessarily know where they're going, maybe, right? Whereas OnX is using verified data to show you parcels of land and who owns it. So you can even use it for like backcountry camping, hunting, all of that. And it works very, very well. You don't need cell service. You just need your GPS location working. And it has a lot of different uses. Now that I've used it for that, my brain's kind of like, well, geez, I could also use it for this or for that. It's a really useful app. It's very nice addition if you're an outdoorsman.
Totally. And I'm so glad that you told me about it. Let me throw a situation at you and see if it would be useful, because I think there's a lot of campground owners, developers, managers that do this. But, I was on a site visit and we were having one of those. It was actually at a Florida property where there was some storm damage. We were rebuilding the fence, and the property owner that was next door said, whoa, this my line, your line, my territory, your territory. Would that application help to identify exactly where the property line is?
It would. It's still going to be only as accurate as your GPS. So depending on where you're at, how strong your signal is, it might get you down to like 5 feet or 10 feet. In other cases, it might be as much as 30 feet, but you're going to have a general idea. You'd never want to base a study off of it, right? But it would give you a general idea. Yeah.
I think that's so awesome, because there are those countless times that you need a reference point, or who do we reach out to make them aware of this project we want to do? So thank you. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely,
and
man.
what's really cool about Merlin too, we have, I work with Ivy Management Group. I guess I should have said that at the top of the show. We have a portfolio of 18 campgrounds that we manage, and I put out on our channel to all of our managers the other day saying, "Hey, check out Merlin. It's a really cool." People love to be engaged in the natural world, right? They love to learn, and I actually got an email back from a park manager who said, we have a bald eagle in our park. And I'm so glad you brought attention to this, because I went out to the spot where we normally see the bald eagle, because I was going to put a bench there and put a sign out to say to look out for the bald eagle. And I turned on the audio and noticed so many other bird calls. And so they're going to make a whole sitting area and put on little placards with all the birds that we typically get. So like, we're hearing more and more cool application, I think, for bringing awareness and engagement in I think a way that our guests are looking to be engaged.
Absolutely. That is awesome. Awesome. I'm glad you shared that. Not enough parks dip into it. It's a $90+ billion industry in the United States, conservation travel. People spend a ton of money traveling to do this stuff. So advertise it, throw that stuff out there. You never know who else you're going to hook. I mean, if you could get a 1/100th of 1% of $90 billion added to your bottom line, you're doing pretty well. So
well put, Greg.
Yeah.
Well put, Greg. Now, Stephen, do you have a market that can give us a percentage of a market that big? Stephen, what's an application that you maybe have gotten some benefit from in your world?
Well, I'm going to second on X. It's funny that you brought that up. It's such a useful tool for so many things, but it's very cheap, and it's the most efficient way to figure out who owns a parcel without having to go to the county website. It's super efficient. Yep. But I'm going to go with ClickUp, and ClickUp is a productivity app that is basically like a beefed up reminders on your iPhone, and you can utilize it at your parks for weekly checklists, monthly checklists. You can organize knowledge centers in there for like handbooks and onboarding. I mean, there's so much you can do with the program. And I used reminders prior to that a lot. And you can actually, talk into Siri and say, hey, can you please remind me to do this, and ClickUp. And so everything's all in one place now instead of having to jump through different apps. So ClickUp is a very cool app.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Stephen.
We're all taking notes at this point. Everybody's looking down like, oh, I got to write this down. That's a good one, Stephen.
Oh,
yeah,
totally.
It helps me not forget stuff, because as I get older, I'm starting to, my memory is questionable.
And Siri helps with that. I mean, it's nice just to have it, but the Siri integration, how many times I've been in the middle of something, and if I could not say in that moment, hey, Siri, help me remember this thing, then I would have forgotten.
Yep.
Sorry, Siri is now talking to me. All right. Hey, John, do you have any applications you'd recommend for us?
I will recommend a pretty popular system that's been around, but a lot of people don't seem to know what it is. But it's Meraki Go app from Cisco Systems. If you self-manage your Wi-Fi, it's one of the most complained things about in my park is that the Wi-Fi is down. I can immediately see if it's a problem on my side, and 99% of the time I can prove to a customer that it's actually user error, something as simple as entering a wrong password to the Wi-Fi. And when I can prove that to the customer, that disagreement ends right then and there.
Right.
With that app, I can even speed test everything right in front of them to show them that it's either their piece of equipment. Basically, it's very similar to our electric problems. When somebody has something wrong in their camper, they immediately blame the park. Every RV park owner has gone through that. I'm sure multiple times every year, probably every week, like I do, until we bring a multimeter out there. The great thing about that is electricity doesn't lie. The Cisco, the Meraki Go app by Cisco, we only installed Cisco Systems products. We have a high-speed fiber line that we installed in our campground. It was very expensive. We have some of the fastest Wi-Fi available in any campground around. I think at the curb we have 100 megabytes per second coming in,
Nice.
or 1,000. I'm sorry, 1,000. We're trying to get it to 5,000, but I don't think Buckeye offers that yet. But yeah, I would say Cisco, the Meraki Go app for self-managed Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a great suggestion too. It is always nice having a resource that can provide that clarity, right? And yeah. Well, John, if you don't mind, while we're at it, I think we'd all love to hear more about Sandusky Milan RV Park.
Oh God, where do I start? Okay. All right. I bought this park in the middle of the COVID outbreak. When was that? The beginning of 2020, right?
Yep.
That's when I closed on the park. It was a real dog of a park, or investment terms, I guess you would call it a value add. There was a lot wrong with it. The thing that I did like about it is that the infrastructure was there. Obviously, the licensing and all that came with it. But it had really nice bathrooms, which is, believe it or not, what a lot of my repeat customers tell me, and that's why they come back. I mean, there are parks that are beautiful. We have state parks right down the street, and I have people that have wives that refuse to go there because their bathrooms are disgusting.
Yep.
So that's where I started before we started doing fixing deferred maintenance and capex projects and value add items. We focused on that. Clean bathrooms, clean park, simple and clean. And then we catered to overnighters, and then over time we got a lot of repeat business. We took all the money, most of the money, and added it back in. The place looks completely different than it did from the day we bought it. We actually just finished. We just repaved the whole park. That ended 3 weeks ago. The park looks brand new. It's great. We've done some additions. We've added about 39 more full hookup sites in the back of the park. It's been quite the adventure. I come from a real estate background. We used to manage Airbnbs in Tennessee. We sold them, got into the RV industry because I liked the location of this park. Did not realize how management intensive it would be, which is okay now. Now that we have a lot of our projects completed, it's a lot easier. Now we have staff that we trust. It was quite the learning curve. I'm sure that learning curve has cost us a lot of money, but we're at the point where we've got everything streamlined. There's a couple little things here and there, but we've remodeled basically the entire park. It's a great place to visit, whether you do overnight, seasonal, monthly, weekly. We offer a little bit for everything, for everyone. I mean, we have parks. We got Cedar Point down the street. We got the Norwalk drag strip down the street. We do overnighters. We're exactly where I-80 and I-90 merge, so we have a lot of overnight traffic. Our crowds are very interesting and different every weekend for different events, whether it's a drag race, a big event at Cedar Point, a big event at Kalahari, a bike week. We get bike week. It's a very diverse crowd every week. Well, different crowd every weekend. Very diverse. Yeah. So,
well, how nice that you got to come in and actually bring a vision to life, and that you got to address so many issues. One of the questions that jumps out off the page at me is, one of the parks that I manage right now has same park. We realized that a lift station is running out. We were on our last leg with it, probably have about $160,000 investment to make with that. The electric is the part, probably large sections of it haven't been done since the 70s, not in conduit. A section will go out, it'll take out 30 sites. To address all of that's probably another 175. We just redid the pool for, 50, redid the hot tub. So all I mentioned this for is, next is repatch and repave the roads. And when you start getting too many projects that's so CapEx intensive, it can make you freeze. It can make you go, gosh, what do I give the priority to? What needs attention the most? It sounds like you were able to move through a lot of projects at your park. How did you determine the priority and the approach and the order to address them in?
So the priority was obviously when we purchased the park to get everything that was existing working properly. We were very lucky with that. I think when we redid some electric, we had to redo about 20 sites, which was expensive. But how do I come about that? I mean, I'm a seasonal park. We close in the winter, so we kind of put pen to paper. We close November 1st. So on November 2nd, we're pen goes to paper, and we start analyzing exactly what project we want to take care of, because Northern Ohio winters don't allow for paving, in the middle of December, January. So it is you have to time this perfectly.
Right.
So like, for instance, last year, the remodel on the inside, that is something that we could do in the winter. So when we had that set aside on our budget, that's what we use that money for. So we remodeled the store, the game room, the laundry room. These are things that can be done in the winter. And then you just gotta figure out whether or not you want to put that money in your pocket, or if you want to put it back in and hope for the future. I mean, in our case, we had some competition. They're building a mega luxury RV resort down the street from us. So for me to compete, I needed to do an expansion, fix a lot of different things to bring more income in, and keep my price point low to compete with them.
Now, one thing that you said that I just really appreciate, actually, I want to call attention to too, is I appreciate the simplicity of the mindset that you've brought forward, because I think lots of times it's really easy to overcomplicate things. It's a strength that I have. My superpower is overcomplicating things. But I'll say that, I mean, just boiling it down to acknowledging that most comments are regarding the restroom. And if you can, just making it that simple. And I appreciate what you said about making sure that what you have is in good working order, and I can't tell you the number of times that I think the concept out there is okay, well, let's just distract people with enough amenities or side items that they don't give the attention to the core infrastructure of the park that really needs to be addressed. So I applaud you, and just seemingly, at least at this conversational level, keeping it simple and addressing, making sure what should work works.
Yeah, I mean, and that goes back to the simple, that was McDonald's philosophy back in the day, just keep the bathrooms clean. And I mean, like I said, our state parks in Ohio are incredible. They're incredible, but their bathrooms aren't. And when your bathrooms aren't, the wives don't want to go. If the wives don't go, no one's going. Right. And if you're geared towards a family park like I am, if your restrooms aren't clean, it's just not going to happen. I mean, I know I know from my family that even stays with me, a lot of the wives won't even let the husbands use the bathrooms. Heck, a lot of these people have full hookup and none of them use the bathrooms. They want, they don't want the stink or whatever it is in their trailer. It's, or the RV. It is simple. Keep bathrooms clean.
Greg, I think you do a lot of consulting work, helping owners get their feet off the ground, do a lot of planning and things of that nature. One of the things that I've heard in that early in the process is I've heard the question, do I need to have bathhouses? If these folks have bathrooms in their rig, do I really need to make that a core thing of my business, and do I need to allocate that footprint and the money for it? The resounding answer, I think, is yes, right? Because one of the things that we know just from being in the business is that people don't always like showering and getting ready in their rig, because you've got tanks that hold 5 gallons of water, or that makes for a really short or cold shower. So
it sure does.
Yeah,
it sure
Greg,
does.
Do you have any insights or things that you've seen as you're helping folks have these conversations, and kind of like what you give attention to?
Yeah, well, it's funny, to your point, and I was thinking this as John was saying it, so you did an excellent job of throwing that to me with that. I appreciate it. Is that, like, even in my experience, so for 26 years before I got into consulting, I owned and operated a 240 site KOA in Northeast Ohio. And, we always had an NPS score of mid 70s to mid 80s. And I always say that has nothing to do with the conversation, but I love to pat myself on the back for that, because that's a really good NPS score.
It's really good.
But what we found is that exactly like John, right? And that is no secret in the industry, right? If you want, it's odd when somebody goes to a hotel, they might go look at the pool, the fitness center, the lobby. When somebody goes to a campground to check it out, first place they go is your bathrooms. First place they go, because it speaks to how everything else in that park is. And it also tells them what the bathrooms are like, because they're going to use them all weekend long. Because I had this, and this was really strange. My experience, not just at my park, but at clients' parks as well. If a 30-foot travel trailer comes in with a family in it, some of them might use the bathrooms. If a Prevost comes in and there's a couple inside it, that thing's got a bathroom way nicer than anything I provided. They were never in their they were walking, I don't care if it was 200 yards to my restrooms. They were the ones, typically the larger, more expensive units and coaches are the ones using the restrooms even more. So to your point, we have gotten into conversations with people, well, we're building a park, or we have a small park. We don't have a bathhouse. We don't want to furnish one because we've got it. Then it's going to be water usage and we've got to keep it up. And do you think it'll hurt us? If you're listening out there, people, yes, it will absolutely hurt you. If you're going for the high end business and you think that they'll stay in their unit, and they won't. They're going to want your bathrooms, and they're going to want them to be really well appointed, spacious, comfortable, and above all else, exceptionally clean. So yes, 100% that investment is worth it. 100%.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Stephen, I'd love to turn it over to you and hear a little bit about the campground that you've managed, but also primarily about campground support.
Yeah. So on that bathroom topic, really quick, at the park we manage, it is super important. If you're not already reviewing your reviews, that operators should be doing that daily. But that is the most common thing that people comment about is the bathroom. So I agree with all that. But my company is called Campground Support, and originally it was my thought was, coming from managing a campground, is I would say arguably the most challenging thing other than project management with managing an RV park is the employees. And because of the seasonal nature, whether you're open year round or you close at some point during the year, you still have a seasonal nature where you have to hire people and terminate and train and take risks with possibly hiring someone from across the United States that are traveling, and it may not work out, and you may not know that until after they get started. So this idea was originally a solution in lieu of hiring people, but we're starting to see that there are more needs with my call center now. And basically the way it works is a call will come into the campground, and most of them have it set up where if the call is missed after a certain set of rings, it rings to us. And that helps capture reservations that could be missed. Because we all know in this day and age that people, they get impatient anymore and they don't want to wait for a call back. And a lot of people you can, call back a voicemail and they haven't booked yet, but some have already, and that could mean if that was a group reservation, we're talking a few $1,000s potentially. So that was kind of the original idea, was to help capture those possibly missed reservations and provide a solution for people that are just kind of tired of going through the cycle of hiring and terminating and training. So it's been fun. We started in December and we have 6 parks now. And the first couple months, we're just trying to work out the kinks. And now we've got it figured out. We've got a good system and we're kind of ready for growth. And it's pretty interesting to see what needs we are filling, because there's a 380 space park in Michigan that has us handling all the calls. And we've got mom and pop owned in Kansas, and they just, hey, I've been answering the phones for 25 years and I don't want to do it anymore. So they still answer the phone, but there are times he's like, I'm going to take the weekend off. He said, I answer the phone. I'm on a boat. I'm at the grocery store and I need some help. So that's been a lot of fun.
How very cool. So how old is Campground Support?
We launched in December. So
congratulations.
Yeah.
Nice.
5 months. Yeah.
And already up to 6 properties. That's great.
Yeah. We're working with a few more. So yeah, it's been fun.
So, obviously the space is getting more and more filled with that AI conversation. And I don't think I've been to a conference in the past 2 years where I haven't heard about how technology is going to help me reduce my staffing, right? I didn't hear you say AI. It sounds like these are real reservationists.
They are, and they are located in the United States.
Okay. Hey, another great selling point. So
it's
so
kind of
real
sad to
person.
see a lot of the large companies anymore, huge companies, and they all outsource their call centers, and it's frustrating, and
Yep.
that we didn't want that. So
yeah,
and
I think that's really cool. I mean, I think that you kind of have found a niche by being somebody that is focused on real people in a real office here in the United States. So I think that is a really cool niche of the market that you have. Another question, obviously, is we're all on different property management systems, right? John, what is your park on?
I mean, we're just using CampSpot at the moment.
Yeah. And Greg, are you guys also CampSpot or a different system?
Well, I don't have my park anymore. My partner Jeff has his KOA, so he's on K2. But we have clients all across this. Stay List, CampSpot, Camp Life, Firefly. Yeah, to your point, boy, there are gobs of them anymore, aren't there? There's a bunch.
There are, and they're all great, right? They're all great. They're all getting better every day. I continue to be impressed with all of our partners, and we've had a good many partners, and I do have to give a shout out to New Book. That's been our current partner that we're moving all our parks to. But I mean, every single property management system out there, every time I do a demo, everybody's getting better. And it's, truly all ships are rising. So Stephen, do you guys work with all different property management systems, or is there like one that you need the parks to be on to be able to be of use?
So we have parks with Camp Life and CampSpot, and we are open to learn new software. You just have to be a little patient with us. But yeah, we're open for that. We're working with a park that has ResNexus. We're getting signed on with them. So yeah, we've got the staff that actually handles the phone calls. They're very tech savvy, and they're very quick learners. And the functions of renting space are maybe different in each interface, but the concept of the rental is all the same. What's your rig length, and do you have slide outs, and kind of the same questions that have to be asked.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's really cool. And to get to master all those and hop in and out, you guys are going to have quite a presence here in the future. That's really cool. And when you get to the point that you can rectify guest folio issues in any given property management system, please let me know. Because I know some groups that could blow your phone up.
We will all be calling you at that point. Even you're going to need 3 more Stevens at that point. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Well, perfect. All right. Well, thanks, guys. It's great to get oriented. And where's home base for you, Stephen? Where are you?
We're out of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay.
And the park I manage is in southern Utah, specifically Hurricane.
Okay. Very neat. Well, thank you. All right. Well, we're going to kind of switch focuses a little bit here, and we'll talk about, but we'll continue to bring in our properties and our businesses as we talk about it. But one thing is just to acknowledge all of the great shows that are going on right now. We've the Florida Alabama show is where we've had a lot of our esteemed colleagues who might otherwise be with us today, but down in Florida. Obviously none of us are there because that is happening right now. Did anybody attend Taco out of our group? A small group of 4? No. Okay. So
Unfortunately, no.
That was another great one. We were there last year, and the Texas Association of Campground Owners, they do a great job. The Florida Alabama show also does a great job. So if you are interested in that education and learning and networking, you may have missed this opportunity, but put it on your calendar for next year to be at Taco and to the Florida Alabama show. So obviously we are coming up on Memorial Day weekend. And so our season is about to begin in full force. So John, I'm kind of curious, what have you guys been up to prepare for the season?
Well, I mean, the list is too long, but I mean, as far as Memorial Day, I mean, we just do simple things: food trucks, cornhole tournaments, karaoke. Obviously, the pool is the most important part. We're filling the pool as we speak. And then we got to pray that the pump works when we turn the pool on, and then pray that the heater works, all that stuff. So in order for me to not have a riot on my sold out Memorial Day weekend, my pool needs to work. So that's the number one thing on my mind right now.
Yes. And I think that there could be like a pool, a CPO, certified pool operator support group for all the pool issues and anxieties that are occurring right now, as people are saying that same thing of my pool has to be in great working order for Memorial Day weekend. Yep. Stephen, how about you down at your park?
We're actually in the thick of our peak season right now.
You are?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Our peak season is like March, April, part of May, a little bit into June, but summer gets too hot in southern Utah, so there's not a lot of demand there.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just making sure we have the enough staffing, as particularly outside. We're noticing a lot more people are they can be technologically challenged. So whether the cable's not working right, and a lot of it's user error, but just kind of getting the staff trained and to be able to quickly handle those so they can focus on what their job duties are normally, mowing the grass and making sure the park looks good and no liability issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stephen, just out of curiosity, there's a lot of folks that that are at the property level that might receive a question that they just don't have the right answer to, and maybe they have to check with their supervisor or the boss there to get information that's property specific. Clearly, you see that at the property you manage, but how do you handle those the questions and the property specific questions that you get at with Campground support?
That's a great question. During onboarding, we collect over 20 pieces of information that we think that are probably the most common questions. So a lot of those we do have, but occasionally we'll get the one call that says, hey, I'm staying there in a week, and, where's the closest hotel? Like, that's a pretty odd question. That
Right.
doesn't come up very often. So some of those we can just help on Google or whatever, but for the most part, a lot of that's in the software, and the managers and owners have also been super helpful. And if we get to that point, we're just honest and say, hey, you know what? We're just helping out with the phone calls. Let me get back to you. I don't have that answer right away. And we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
That's all right. That's great. That's very well handled. That's cool. You touched on just what a challenge the staffing is, and it kind of made me think about I think you nailed it with talking about the cycles that occur, and it's so interesting from a staffing perspective because I'm one of those folks that had done a lot of time in the hotel resort industry before coming over to the outdoor hospitality space. And it's interesting because what I saw a lot was young folks that are right out of college that feel like hospitality and tourism must be something incredibly glamorous, right? You're at a place where everybody wants to be, and you're there on the nights and the weekends and the holidays, and you're there where people are wanting to have fun, right? And then just as we were all giggling, you get in and you find out that there's a lot of pressure with handling someone's vacation, and it is not all the fun and games that you want it to be. And so I think a lot of folks are expecting that to be a very glamorous career. They get in and they go, oh gosh, I'm going to change. And what we see a lot in campgrounds is almost the opposite. We see folks that have had a career as a police officer, as a paralegal, as a city clerk, and they've done that for their whole career, but they have loved camping. And now they're finally going to retire from their career as a paralegal, and they're going to come work in that campground that they have loved being at for the past 15 years as they've traveled with their family, and they're going to be that work camper and adopt that lifestyle. And but you just get them you might get them for that 6-month period, right, before they're off to their next work camping gig. And so you do see a lot of talent, and you see a lot of people that love this industry and are passionate about being a part of it, but they're also kind of nomads at heart, right? So it's just kind of cool. In regards to the pool, yeah, we are doing that. We are also super excited about kind of showing off all of those CapEx projects. As John mentioned, I had a little bit of sweat, right? You know, you're really hoping that you can make sure that it's all taken care of and that you can get water in your hot tub before anybody arrives. And then the other thing that I'll make sure that to make some reference towards is to spend some time to make sure that all of your revenue channels are working as they should, right? A lot of us are on OTAs, or this is a great time to just, walk through your website, making sure your booking link works, make sure those OTA booking links work, check your Google My Business. This is really the time to just, and that's a good thing to do periodically anyway, right? Because those booking links or something like that can get interrupted without any rhyme or reason. So just going in and making sure that you're ready to collect the money that is coming your way is a powerful thing. Greg, is there any guidance that you're offering to your parks right now to say, hey, start thinking about this or be doing that?
Well, this is, you mentioned capital projects and being excited at showing them off. This is sort of when, you bought the new car, but it's kind of just been in the driveway for a while. Now it's time to turn the keys over and see how it runs, or maybe a better analogy is that, you built a hot rod over the winter, right? And is it going to turn over? Is it going to perform the way I wanted it to? And so I'm curious from John and Steven, for the capital projects that maybe you've done, if it's whether it be campsites or, and a lot of things are really hard to measure. So maybe this isn't the best question. It might not apply to any of the capitals you've done at your parks, but what sort of, as you get into the season now, you're going to turn the keys over and run it. You're going to see people occupying those new sites or using those new amenities. Maybe throw it to you, John, first. How are you going to measure whether or not that thing's a success? Do you have a specific ROI time frame in mind? Are you just looking for smiles and good reviews? How do you like to measure it? Because as a consultant, as a strategist, I definitely have my own set of performance indicators, right, that I like to use, but it doesn't necessarily apply to everyone. Some clients might tell me they need a 3-year ROI, and other ones, if it's maybe a governmental agency who owns campgrounds, they might be happy with a 15 or a 20-year ROI. So how do you measure them, John? How, looking at maybe your new sites, like how are you going to measure them as a success, or as you move forward into the season and start using them?
Honestly, I do go by the smiles, right? As of right now, anyways. I mean, you couldn't have said it better. I mean, it's, of course there's a profitability ratio there, obviously. I kind of put a number at that as about, the goal is, it's steep, but I want 10% more net revenues per year, which sounds like a lot, but with the smiles comes a revenue,
That's right.
So as long as you take care of the smiles, the numbers kind of take care of themselves. That also goes with the employees. When you have good employees, our turnover is very, very low. Actually, we have a line of people that want to work, that live locally, that want to come back every year. They live in Norwalk, which is the town south of myself. And I'll tell you what, they can't wait for camping season. They can't wait to be behind the desk. We have used work campers before. I have had some disasters. But as far as gauging the revenue, I don't really worry. I monitor it every week, but when I look too far into it, it causes some issues. I look into it more mid-season, just because the money flows in at different times every year. We had a very early arriving crowd this year. We also had an event. We had an eclipse this year where we were in the middle of totality. That that was revenue that we don't really depend on every year. So the numbers are definitely going to be up this year. However, I'm still going to continue with the smiles on the faces. Then those people tell their friends, and then everyone's fighting each other for a spot. And then we're sold out on every holiday. With competition coming in down the street, they spend a ton of money on this, tens of millions of dollars on these parks. I have to compete with that as well. So the smiles on the faces, the money will come with time.
And I'm glad to hear you mention the smiles on the faces, because one of the things I want to throw out there too is you also quickly tied that to staff. And I think lots of times when you say the smiles on the faces, everybody's minds immediately goes to the guests, right? Because that's why we're all in it, is the guest experience. But one of the things that I think a lot of the best hospitality groups out there have recognized, and that they consider this the hospitality profit chain, is that if you devote your resources to your leaders so that your leaders can devote their resource to their employees, so their employees can dedicate themselves to the guests, then the guests will return, and there's your profits, right? So lots of times I think that we managers or owners or developers, we rightfully have the guest experience in mind. We always should, but just remembering that it all trickles from the employee experience. And just to know that water pressure is great. Not only have you improved the guest experience, but you're saving that poor desk agent from having to hear from the 7th time that day about how terrible the water pressure is. And as we can all imagine, if we've not done it ourselves, to smile across from somebody when it's the 7th time you heard that day and go, oh gosh, you didn't have a great shower because the water pressure was bad. I'm so sorry. That takes a piece of your soul the 6th time you've done it.
Yeah, and what I've also noticed in the industry, and I still pay attention to work camping, and I'm in their forums on Facebook. I go to their website. I still take a peek at it here and there, but what I have noticed that is trending is that the work campers, a lot of them feel like they're getting robbed. And if they feel like that when they get there, they're going to be burned out by the 3rd or the 4th month. It's happened to me. I was absentee for a year, and I could see my reviews coming in. These people were nasty to me. These people were this. You could just tell. I mean, and it was tough to find somebody. It's tough to replace somebody if you're absentee. I had to ride the season out, and that alone, it took me 10 times longer to fix those reviews than it was even worth.
Absolutely. And Greg, I really appreciate your question about the ROI. One of the things that I can tell you with Ivy management is, to your point, it does vary per the ownership group, right? Different ownership groups have different metrics for sure. One of the things that we explore with is price point. That's kind of an easy, quick metric to determine your ROI is, if you updated the furniture in your cabins and you raised the rate $5, did you have the same occupancy? Did you listen to any kickback? Did you get any? What if you take it up another $5? And that's something that I think is a popular way to determine that. That's pretty. You can see the results pretty quickly. Greg, are there without giving away any of your trade secrets, we still want folks to reach out to engage with you for business, but is there anything high level that you would say, give some attention to this, think about that as a method of ROI?
So again, awesome handoff. Rate and revenue management. It is such a low hanging fruit, and we see so few parks that really take an active approach to it. So they just sort of, okay, before the season, I'm going to set my rates, and these are my rates. And maybe I've got a weekday rate and a weekend rate, or maybe I've got a peak and an off-peak rate. But to really actively look at your rates through the week and on the weekends, and to your point, can you squeeze out a few more dollars on a weekend or a higher rate for a special event? Are you using, you mentioned before, the advances in all the PMS systems, and they're all really good and they're all getting better. Each one sort of suits a different type of clientele. Vast majority of them now have what they call it dynamic pricing built in. It's not really dynamic pricing. as that exists for like the hotel industry, but you can still use it to drive your revenue as your park is filling up, right? So you hit that 60%, your revenue, your rates go up a little bit, 70% occupancy, it goes up a little bit more. Taking advantage of those things can really add a lot to the bottom line. And it seems like recently we've talked to an awful lot of clients that are not doing that. And that's where I kind of wish Jeff was on the call with us, because that's really his strong suit. But not enough people doing that. And that's something that that doesn't take a massive CapEx project, or, you don't have to redecorate anything, but take a look at your marketing and your website, and actively managing your rates. And again, my partner, Jeff Hoffman, he is a genius at that. He's taught that for the national school, and at a couple of, I believe, the Arvik conventions when it was still Arvik. He's been around that long. If you guys don't know Jeff, he's like Father Time. He's been here probably, I don't know, 50 some years in the industry. And so I like to tease him about being old, and he likes to take it for some reason. So if you're listening, partner, here's to you. Hopefully the hair is not any thinner today, but he's just genius level when it comes to that stuff. And that is it's not necessarily easy, but it's not hard either, because it doesn't take a lot of outlay. It just takes some of your time. Watch your rates week to week, watch your occupancy, and can you tick it up, or do you need to tick it down? And how does that affect your reservations? Because there is a lot to learn there, and certainly a lot that can be earned with just a few clicks of the mouse.
Yeah. And, I think you touched on it beautifully. It does continue to surprise me how underutilized it is. I think it has blown up in the past couple of years. I think it's a term that we're hearing more and more. And to your point, I think that it's something that can be as simple or as complex as an organization wishes to make it, right?
Yeah, excellent way to put it. Yes.
Yeah. You could easily make some adjustments in your property management system. And I think most of them have the capability to say, if it crosses this threshold, here's what I want you to do with the rate, and but I think one misunderstanding that we hear a lot is, anytime that you get kickback about the revenue management, it's people saying nickel and diming, money hungry, all the stuff, right?
Yep.
So one thing that we also know is people that are doing it well is it's not always taking the price up, right? Sometimes it's taking the price down. Sometimes good revenue management is identifying your periods of low occupancy and dropping your rate to encourage more bookings, right? So it's not always about being revenue hungry. I think it's trying to give a fair valuation to your park, and your park is going to be valued differently, whether it's hard, like all things, that if I can, if there's no room for it, or if there's a lot of demand, then why wouldn't there be an increase in the cost for it? So.
Absolutely. I had somebody tell me a long time ago that every one of those campsites is a banana, and it's brown at the end of the day. So do you, right? So to your point, sometimes you need to lower that, because would I rather rent it for 20% less than my nightly rate is typically, or get zero? I'd rather have 20% less than zero for sure. So 100%. If lowering it means a camper night, by all means, let's live on camper nights for sure.
100%. Now, Stephen, you might have an interesting take on this, because not only do you manage a campground where you're probably revenue managing of some sorts, but with campground support, a lot of times your desk agents are the people that see the smile to keep that theme alive, right? They'll see the smile, or they'll see the frown, and they'll take the booking. They'll say, no, I don't want that at that rate. How often are your agents having rate conversations, and is there feedback that you're taking back to owners or management companies, or to say, this is feedback that we're getting on the reservations and the rate?
Yeah, so there's a good question. There's an ongoing discussion with all of them. If I see anything that's kind of a no-brainer, I'll definitely mention it. Actually, none of the parks that we have do that. So I think in lieu of that, I think the alternative is if you're doing comp surveys and just making sure your rates are competitive. I think that's an alternative to that, but I do think that revenue management is critical, whether you do one or the other. Mm-hmm. especially like for us, we had, I would say, at least 8 parks get built in the last 3 years in our area, and we're doing it every month. We're doing comp surveys and just making sure we're competitive, because if you go all season and come to find out you were $10 higher than the next highest person, I mean, that's a lot of bookings that you could be missing. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that the benchmarking in our industry, I think, is the hardest aspect to manage, just because we have a lot of forums where people are happy to get together like this, right, and talk about ideas and the concepts and conventions that we use to manage our properties. But you pick up the phone and you call the RV place down the street and say, "What's your rate and occupancy?" Get out of town, right? Yeah. So, John, how about you guys and anything? I recognize where as a single park, you might not want to address revenue management, but I'm sure that you guys are just noticing periods of occupancy and demand and making adjustments.
Yeah, I mean, we do use the dynamic pricing. I mean, they have that available on CampSpot. It's super simple. You talk to your rep. You can determine when to start that, what capacity rate to start that, whether it's 50% full, 60% full, 70% full. We've experimented with that for about 2.5 years now. So we kind of have that dialed in to where we want, compared to some of our competitors. Our area is very strange. We're either all eating or we're all dying. That's what I've noticed, especially with my brother being very close to me. We can, we can share a lot of data. I actually speak to Jeff Hoffman probably every other month. So
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. I don't know.
I'll probably see him in a few weeks, pay him a visit at the KOA, and then we tend to call each other, "Are you slow too?" And the answer seems to always be the same. "Yeah, we're slow."
Yep.
Are you slammed too? Or, "I'm out of seasonals." "Oh, sorry, I'm out of seasonals too." Or whatever the case is. It really all depends on the events. We're weather dependent. But the great thing about CampSpot, and I will recommend to the campground owners, is to get the insurance, get that thing going. That's another revenue generator for us. I forget what they call it, weather source or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
For the weather source, I would recommend to do that in addition to the lock site fees, in addition to dynamic pricing.
Yeah.
And that will, like I said, like Greg knows, Greg and Jeff would know, our busiest time is between Memorial Day, anytime school's out. When school's out, it's crazy in Northern Ohio until school goes back in, and then it's just crazy on the weekends. And trying to fill the gaps, Monday through Thursday is a little tough. Then we have to do a little something here and there, and then again, we're weather dependent in October on our last month. October is very hit or miss. We have some events that are held in Cedar Point, but Cedar Point's only open on the weekends in October. So, there's a few different things. We changed our strategy to more of a family type park. I have 2 twin 8-year-old girls and a 16-year-old boy. So whatever my 2 girls want, it seems to work with everybody, that has kids. So we've noticed a lot more kids coming. Our store revenues are up because kids buy candy. Kids want everything in the store. Don't get me wrong. There's still, there's people that travel for a living and this and that, but, they will drive to Walmart to save $5, and we do have a Walmart down the street. I compete with that too. I mean, we're in the middle of everything, but if a kid wants something right away, you can't tell them no or waiting to go to Walmart. So we've kind of changed our strategy a little bit. We started doing events. We used to have just a simple no frills park. We had a pool, 2 bathrooms, a game room, and a store, and that was it, and a laundromat. Now we do a little above and beyond, especially on the weekends. That brings us smiles. That brings more kids. Kids ride their bikes around. They come to the store. They spend money in our new arcade. They buy candy in the store like crazy. Our store revenues are way up, and that's all without even raising our rates. I think our rates haven't been raised in 3 years, except for the dynamic portion of it.
Right.
We're staying pretty static with the base price. So these smiles on the faces are increasing revenues instead of a nickel and diming. I mean,
yeah,
everybody should expect that if you buy an airline ticket a day before you leave, you're going to probably be paying a lot more. Okay, well, that's the same thing with camping. If race week's coming up, we have the NHRA Nationals. That's always the last weekend in June. That's my busiest weekend of the year. These people are so loyal that when they're checking in, they're trying to book the same spot for the next year. A lot of these people have been in the same spot and the same pull-through site for 20 years straight. When I purchased the park, I thought Cedar Point would be everything. This is my biggest revenue weekend of the year. And it's usually sold out a year ahead of time. But anyhow, getting back to where I was going. I would add weather sense. If you do have camp spot, they have all this. You got to talk to your rep. Just communicate with your rep.
Regardless of the property management system you use, talk with your rep, because they'll sit down with you and they'll tell you 5 features that you may or may not have been known about, and they can tie anticipated income from it to it, and say, we think you could have made this much on dynamic pricing and this much on the weather sense. And Camp Spot, I know, we had a great rep and a great experience with them. And well, I am seeing that it is 3:01. We're Eastern. So just real quick, we'll do like another round robin and just say, what are you excited about? I'll tell you, I'm excited about, I've got a cruise with my family coming up. Looking forward to that. We also just had a property, Sugar Sands RV Resort down in Alabama, in our portfolio, score a 10-10-10 good SAM rating. And that is always a good feeling. So, Greg, what do you have? What are you excited about?
I'm excited about going out that door right there. I can hear. Song. Yeah, man, I can hear him through the door. I'm in Northwest Ohio right now. It is peak migration time. About 1 million birds moved overhead last night, according to Doppler radar and Birdcast. And I'm just excited to grab my binoculars, my dogs, and go for a little walk here when this is over. So thanks, though. Thanks for having me,
Wish
Scott.
I could join you on it. Stephen, what you excited about?
So my wife and I have a 1 and 3-year-old, and timing wise, we haven't been on vacation since before the oldest. So we're going to actually go on vacation to one of the parks that we take calls for in next month. So we're really excited about that.
Congratulations. Stephen, we need to talk. We're in a similar boat. John, what about you? What are you excited about?
My wife and I will be married 10 years on Saturday.
Hey, happy anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, we all got a lot of great things to be excited about. Well, thank you guys so much for spending the time with me. Give Kim a congratulations as well on the anniversary. I'm Scott, filling in for Brian. This is MC Fireside Chats. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, John. Have a good day, everybody.
All right, take care.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
This episode of MC Fireside Chats with your host, Brian Searl. Have a suggestion for a show idea? Want your campground or company in a future episode? Email us at hello@moderncampground.com. Get your daily dose of news from moderncampground.com. And be sure to join us next week for more insights into the fascinating world of outdoor hospitality.